It's begun. And so this is our episode. I believe it's number 7, isn't it, Elliot? And and so tonight we are so fortunate because we have Bill Baldwin is here with us. And Bill, I've known him for years and years in the Flint River Council. And Bill has always been, our theme tonight is "A Scout is Cheerful." And we're going to talk about that at some length, the necessity and the desirability of having your programs be cheerful. I don't care whether you're a Cub Scout den leader or whether you're a patrol leader or senior patrol leader or a scoutmaster or a district commissioner or, in Bill's case, just an all-around great guy. Now, Bill, tell them a little bit about your scouting background, including, go ahead and brag about yourself, and because I know you can, but tell about what your roles have been as a scout commissioner. And I'm really interested, and I think people will be interested in, what's your background about A Scout is Cheerful?
Well, actually, I guess I got involved. I was a scout growing up. As I say, I'm a lifetime life scout. I did not earn my eagle, which I am eternally upset about. Actually, I wish my parents had pushed me more and all, but the truth is, I should have done it, but I didn't. As the old saying goes, gas fumes and perfume and sports and part-time jobs just kind of did me in, and I dropped.
Bill, you may have heard Baden Powell talking down at the scout camp, and he says he thinks that Eagle Scouts overrated, and that what we look for in scouting worldwide is a first-class scout and a first-class citizen. And as far as I know, you're a first-class citizen, and you, of course, were a first-class scout. So let's talk about your citizenship and your accomplishments as a scouter.
Okay, well, when I got out of the service, I moved to Griffin and bought an optometric practice. And probably the first or second day I was in the office, professional scouter Jim Hall came by to see me, and before I knew it, I was on the district committee. and I actually, we held some Eagle conferences there, but I was on the board, and then I continued really to be on the board. I wasn't married when I moved to Griffin, and then shortly afterward, I met my wife, and we got married. But then I was already involved in scouting, and I knew I wanted, I guess, really to do more. I enjoyed it, and I became after I had my first child was born, we were in Cub Scouts. I became an assistant Cub Master, and then became Cub Master, and that's where probably I think I had the most fun of all. I mean, fun. Being a Cub Scout leader, particularly a Cub Master, is just a lot of fun. Being a Scout Master, which I was later on, is very rewarding. But oh gosh, did we have fun. I enjoyed singing crazy songs. I enjoyed in the actually the training part of it, the powwows, singing the silly songs, the skits. We sold, we had cake auctions, just had so much fun doing that. Then moved up to actually Boy Scouts and was assistant Scout Master, became a Scout Master. I've also been OA or there, a chapter advisor, vice president of the council. I'm the Scout Council commissioner now, trying to recruit commissioners. But all the while, I think I have had probably more fun than I should have. And I've always said that probably the kids had fun, but I had fun, and hopefully it rubbed off on them. Just got back really from a conference, a Key 3 conference at Philmont, New Mexico. I'd taken the troop there. We had done a trek. Just have been involved. I guess I'm a silver beaver, or the arrow vigil. I'm proud to say both of my sons are Eagle Scouts with Silver Palms and 4 God and Country Awards. Both have the Vigil Honor and OA, and both were the American Legion Eagle Scout of the Year for the state of Georgia. So I'm very indebted to Scouting for what it has done for me, really, and my family, and what it's meant to my boys. My wife was a Cub leader, Den leader, Webelos leader. So it's kind of a family type thing that we thought was really important for our boys to participate in. So I've had fun.
Well, Bill, when I was a Cub Scout, I can still remember my Cub Scout leaders, the guys that would stand up and lead the silly songs and smile and cheer and the kinds of things like that. It's hard to put a value on it, but I can remember the Cub Master. I'd see him at church for the next 20 years after that, and up in Atlanta, and I always thought about him. Remembered him with such kindness about what a great guy he was. And, I think a lot of people are shy and they need to overcome that. And it helps them as much as it helps the boys, I think.
Well, really, and I've always said, adults will spend thousands and thousands of dollars going to psychologists and psychiatrists to learn how to get the child out to have fun. But you can be a scout leader, particularly a Cub Scout leader, and you can do it gives you license to have fun, to get up and to be crazy, to sing Junior Birdman, the Grand Old Duke of York, to do silly clapping cheers, and you let the child out and you have fun. And so you learn not to take yourself too seriously. I've dressed up in some of the craziest costumes in the world, leading some powwows as a ringmaster and as a Viking, and it is just, really fun. And I really am sad in the fact that so many parents miss out on the opportunity to make such great memories, with their kids. I can remember, and my son was in Cub Scouts, and we had to, I don't know, bake cookies or something, and my wife tells a story how thrilled she was. We were in the kitchen and we were making these super cookies and what we can do and what we can add to it. And hey, why don't we take some cookies over to Miss Jackson across the street, who was a widow, and we just had more fun making those cookies and doing it. But that's making memories, along with the memories of all the pack meetings and did meetings, and then being in Scouts, with my boys and the hikes and the packs and all. But it just kind of makes you, I don't know, you think back and you just can't help but smile and hope that the tradition will be carried on. I've said that when I die, I don't want to be buried. Junior Birdman.
You mean like putting on your Birdman goggles?
Oh, you betcha. Up in the air,
Junior Birdman. Up in the air, upside down. Boy, isn't that great? And the kids love it. Oh, yeah.
It is. We sang that, particularly I tried to bring it back in because we sang that when I was lucky in my troop. We had Dr. Alan Donaldson, the deputy director of the CDC, and he was my Cub Master and my Scout Master. So I'm just so thankful. And his wife was my first den leader. But yeah, you remember all that. As a matter of fact, I had the opportunity years ago to call her up and thank her for one of my den leaders. Dr. Donaldson had died, but it was just so much fun. And and the thing about it is, you Cub Scouts, you learn how to take part in things and how to be silly. But it's always amazed me how you can take a boy in Cub Scouting and they'll do silly skits and they'll do singing and everything like that. And all of a sudden they become a Boy Scout and they get shy. Of course, you go from in there with all the older boys in there, and I guess that's typical to do it. And we didn't do as much singing in Boy Scouts, actually very little compared to Cub Scouts. But that's the beautiful part about having the women den leaders. It seemed like they they do better. And of course, I can't sing worth a flip, but doggone it, I would always say at our PAC meetings that, you'd have the dads come in and they were tired and they'd be sitting back, have to go to the PAC meeting. And we'd get up there and I start doing a song and like the Muffin Man's, where you have to jump up and down and you go to each one, somebody else does it. And those dads were kind of tired. And before you know it, they were jumping down and they were having fun and seeing that and seeing the silly skits. But it can mean so much, really. And it's sad. And I'll say this as a council commissioner, it sometimes we'll try to start up a pack and all, and trying to get parents to volunteer to be part of it. Well, I don't know anything about it. Well, we have training. We can teach somebody how to be a leader and things to do. And one of the good things that we have is all the stuff online to give examples and outlines that a den leader can do it. But actually, when I first got into the Cub Scout, I was a Cub Wood Badge trainer, and we had more fun doing that and learning how to teach people, and we would do them in person. We don't do as much in person type teaching now, but we would put on a model den and pack meeting and have all the ones there, and we would have a powwow. And I would say especially the Viking ones, when the power invested in me by Thor, you are now all Cub Scouts and you're all 10 years old and you have to act like it. And I would say, when I say pow, you say wow. We go pow, wow, pow, wow. And they would go to some classes, walking down the hall, and I'd yell out, pow. And they would go, wow. And we would just go back and forth. And that's what creates the enthusiasm to show them how to have fun. And that enthusiasm can go out to the kids too, to where they really enjoy it.
Well, I thought that the children too, I remember they used to have in a patrol situation, you had one guy was supposed to be the cheermaster in the patrol. And in other words, he was the one that the patrol leader could turn to and say, do you have a song for us, or a joke, or something like that? And so there was that went on. And there was, I don't know if you remember some of our training sessions we had there in the council, but my specialty was about singing, and I pointed out so much the whole parallel between people coming to a campfire or a pack meeting or even a den meeting and going to church, and how the singing unifies all the people in the room. And so I think that, and then it sets the tone for worship. But in that regard, I have suggested on many occasions that the children need to have a songbook. This is one of the scout books, a songbook, and they or print it out so that they're not just sitting in the back wondering what's going on, but they've had some introduction to the materials. And so I think singing is extremely important, and also I think it adds to cheerfulness, and it's good for the lungs.
Let's face. I've always said, if you can't sing well, doggone it, you can always sing loud, right?
There you go.
So that's always, and that's the one thing, the singing we would have, especially in the Cub Scouts, is that I can't carry a tune in a bucket. Man, I'm terrible, but I think those people.
I never noticed.
Well, and I'm sure they
never noticed.
If that guy can get up there and try to sing like that, I guess I can too. So they would, they would join in. So I think today's society is so doggone uptight that we're worried about everything under the sun that we forget how to have fun as adults. So it's hard to translate it down to the kids. And of course, the kids now, don't get me started on all the cell phones and computers and stuff like that they're on all the time, which I think is terrible. As a matter of fact, it's interesting when I look at kids and I see them, in my practice. I still practice one day a week, but that we're having an epidemic of nearsightedness, and the three things they're looking at. One is genetic. The other is all of the computer and near point work that we have that we didn't have when we were young. And other thing is not getting enough ultraviolet light of being outside. There's some thought that a child needs to be at least outside 30 minutes to an hour every day just to have that retinal stimulation out there. So let's face it. And I talked to the national president at the Key 3 conference at Philmont, is that I sure wish that scouts would get with Secretary Kennedy and say, hey, we can be one of the helpful things for our youth, for the health of our youth, to make America healthy again, to get our kids outside, get them outside playing, eat a little dirt, get scuffed up and something like that, because you're going to, survive. The kids now, and a lot of it, and it's not their fault, but it's parents, single parent families and stuff like that, and everybody's so uptight and stuff. That's where scouting can really come in and have a chance to get our kids, boys and girls, Scouting America, to really, I guess, loosen up, get fit, have fun, and you do that in the outdoors. And Baden Powell had it right. You get people outside, you learn skills, you learn how to take care of yourself, and also you can learn how to have fun, while you're doing it, and learn how to laugh at yourself.
There we go. One of the things that I used to talk about when I talked about scout meetings, especially Cub Scout meetings, where these people have brought their kids in, and then you have this meeting that goes, and the parents get involved, and they're jumping up and down because Bill Baldwin's getting them to jump up and down and be silly, and they see their children being silly, and they see that shy child who joins in and all that. But then toward the end of the meeting, then you have the singing of something like a national anthem, or God Bless America. By the way, I've been, since we started these podcasts, we're trying to look. I've been looking a lot at what people post in other countries, and it's kind of interesting to see scout gatherings in Kenya or in Indonesia, and they're all jumping up and down and they're having a good time. And so I think that there's we have a lot we can be thankful for, and we can certainly. I'm glad you brought up Secretary Kennedy. I'm doing some efforts in that regard to thank them, and of course, the scouts provided the bedrock of the military, especially at places like at West Point and the military academies. And so, because they saw these well-rounded people coming up who had experience in the outdoors, who had experience in leadership. That's one of the things that I think we have to really remind people. And I think Wood Badge is a very good reminder of getting adults to think like children, if they can, and to let the children be the leaders and not the adults being the leaders.
Now that's a hard thing not to do, because sometimes you get in the adult and you think you're with the kids. Speaking of that, now my older son went to West Point and is
I didn't know that.
And oh yes, and that helped him get into West Point, being an Eagle Scout. He is now at the National War College. He's a colonel, War College in D.C. And so scouting has done a wonderful thing from him. Even my younger son is a vice president at Truist Bank, and he would go to job interviews, and they found out he was that he's an Eagle Scout, and the whole time was talk like that. That's a wonderful thing too. And I agree with you. First class is good, and what you learned that. But if you earn that Eagle and you're going for a job, and let's say there are 4 candidates there, and they all look the same, went to college, got good grades and stuff, but one's an Eagle Scout. Which one would you pick? It gives you a reason to pick that person over the rest. But scouting does that. Aside from the leadership and what you can learn, it's really kind of funny. I guess I was considered kind of a relatively strict scoutmaster and stuff and all, but boy, I tell you what, when a boy wanted to go in for board review, he needs to wear his whole uniform and have it right. He needs to have all of his papers with him, go in there, look sharp, and sit down there and do it. You learn these life skills, how to do things, how to show up, how to act, and I would line up my patrol like that, and I would ask patrol leader. I said, so and so's not here. Where is he? And then they would go, well, I don't know. Did you call him? Did you talk to him? Hey, you're responsible. It all happens or fails to happen in your patrol. And so they learn accountability and what they need to do. But we also do this in an environment where it's also a lot of fun. I mean, to see these kids, you practice your, you have them all lined up, and you have patrols competing with each other, running down to see who can tie the knots the fastest, and come back and do it, and having fun time doing it while you're learning helpful things. I mean, it's just, scouting to me is just such an overall wonderful program for boys and girls. And of course, bear with me when I talk about boys, because I guess it's because I'm old and I'm so used to just really boys being in scouting, but for the girls too. I mean, you learn these skills, and you learn how to take care of yourself. It's like I'm talking about going to Philmont on those treks. The way those boys started out compared how they ended up 10 days later, it's just a completely different boy, because they're out there, they take care of themselves, they fix their own food, they're in charge, they have a crew chief, and we've got some adults with us, them just really just tagging along, just trying to make sure everything goes okay. But they learn this, and I've seen a boy who was just scared to go out into the woods and play foxes and hounds, but just wanted to sit by the campfire with the adults. And then after a couple of years, he was out there with them doing it, and they elected him to be the crew chief, to be in charge. And he just would toured and came out so much, and that's through scouting, through doing, part of that. It is just it's just amazing to see that transformation that can come from scouting. And I don't know how we get this out to parents about how much fun a boy can have, and just to get away from that dadgum, computers and gaming and things like that, and get out and just, there again, like I say, eat dirt and get a scuffed up shin and realize you aren't going to fall apart.
I was looking for my, I have a lot of Baden Powell's illustrations, and you've probably seen this. I'm sure you've seen this one, and I wish I could blow it up really well, but this is kind of interesting. Baden Powell wrote this, and here's a happy scout, and he's jumping over a stile or a fence in England, and and they're labeled. Each one of these is labeled. He's jumping over selfishness, racial jealousies, religious differences, class consciousness, and grumpiness. And I think that's just so much the scouting movement is jumping over that and doing it with joy, and his hat's flying off and all that. Baden Powell was such a great illustrator and a studier of what it was that young men and boys and kids liked. That one of that is that sense of nobility that is part of, especially like Cub Scouts and younger Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. They understand what honor is, and because it's just innate in children, and they know when somebody's basically lying to them or something like that, and so it's a great part of the Scout Oath, and that's one of the things that I keep thinking about, is how we have all this repetition, and the children get it because they repeat it so much, and it becomes a part of who they are. So, at any rate, and so cheerfulness. Oh, I wanted to say something I had in my notes here about tonight, about skits. And, I think skits are important because they offer the opportunity for children to practice theatrics. And so that's, and and these notes, I think there'll be a way where people can download them or just pause their watching of this podcast, and then they can see the little notes there. But you see the skits. I think that first, the Cub Scout motto is do your best. And so what I tell kids that are getting ready to put on a skit is, look, do your best. You know, it's just a skit, but that doesn't mean that you don't need to work at it a little bit. And also I tell them, project your voice so that the people in the back of the room can hear you. And a lot of people don't have any experience with public speaking. But an 11-year-old child or a 10 or 9-year-old child, if given this opportunity and coached well by his den leader or his his den chief, can have this opportunity to become a better public speaker and understand that principle of enunciating clearly and loudly to the people in the back. And so it may just be a skit on one level, and it's supposed to be funny, and it shouldn't be stupid or smutty. I use that word. I think Baden Powell would approve of that word. But, and so it should be practiced also. That little skit should be. And so I'll tell kids all over the world, look, if you're going to do a skit, practice it a bit. Make sure you can do it. Make sure the people in the back can hear. But, also I think that back in the old days, we can talk about the good old days, but there was more like costuming and props. Do you remember the enlarging machine? You remember that skit?
Oh, yeah.
And, that was one for you people who don't know the enlarging machine. That's where you just have a blanket and somebody comes up and he says, I've invented an enlarging machine. And he takes a stick and he throws it in, and a person behind uses a flashlight and makes noises and stuff. And then a log comes out. And then a guy puts a tennis ball in and over the top, and all the noise. And then a basketball comes out. And then a boy dressed up like a little mother with a baby comes walking along and kind of trips, and the baby goes in, and then it comes out with a scout wearing a big diaper, and some heavy boy coming out with a diaper, mama. And so it's funny. Now that may not be politically correct anymore for whatever reason, but it's funny, and it's the kind of thing that children can work at and get a good laugh.
Well, they learn how to work together, how to organize, pull something off, and it gives some a position, which is good. This is everything in Cub Scouting and Boy Scouting is really, in one way, practice and having fun so that when you become an adult, it's all not new. Whether it's going to a board review, it's like going for a job interview and having to get up and talk when you are putting into a leadership position. You learn to speak out to that person in the last row. You learn how to dress appropriately, wear, as I always say, you wear the uniform for the game you're playing. Okay. So we're doing scouting. So we wear our scout uniform. And as I would tell my scouts, is look, wear that uniform with pride. That's the second greatest honor you can have. The greatest honor I feel you can have is to wear the uniform of your country. Second greatest honor is to wear that scout uniform and wear it with pride. When you have it, when you give the oath, you stand up and you have your arm hiked high. You just don't have it squashed down. You get it like it should be. And talk about kids and do your best and stuff like that. But it's also, you want to have fun while you're doing it. You don't take everything so doggone serious. And that's the beautiful part about skits. Half the fun is seeing a kid kind of mess up, and you just laugh, and they have a chance to laugh, and they, kind of, a joke at somebody who messed up their part, and they go back and do it. And parents love it. And then all of a sudden they start laughing. And they learn that it's have fun, and it's okay if you mess up. You need to learn how to laugh at yourself. You need to have a chance to mess up. When I would do coaching, soccer and baseball, I used a lot of the Cub Scout stuff is that, and I say, boys, we're out here, number one, to do our best. We're playing baseball, do it. We want to do our best. We want to score as many runs as we can. And at the end of the game, if we score the most runs, I guess we win. That's not important. As long as we have fun doing it. And this is what parents don't get. And I'd have parents that would start to get upset, and I'd say, whoa, wait a second. And I say, we don't do that. We're out here to learn and all. Let's not take it so serious. You don't have to be serious all the time. This is what Scouts doing. We have an oath and we have a law that we live by. And what is of course, the most important Scout law, I feel, is the 12th one. The Scout is reverent. That's the important though. But along with that, cheerful, courteous, kind. Those are type of things that we learn how to do while we're in scouting, and those things carry over. And if we keep all of that in mind, have fun while we're doing it, we've accomplished a lot for our younger people. And that's the business that really Scouting America it is for our youth to build them, to encourage them, to instill in them values that they can have, that they can lean on as they get older and they go into the adult world. And Lord knows it is really a rough time out there for a lot of these young people because they aren't prepared. And I do honestly feel that our scouts are better prepared for the world than those who are not in scouting. And I realize that people talked about how sports, and I love sports, and my boys did that, and some had some scholarship offers to play sports, but didn't. But teamwork and stuff like. Tell me one thing that scouting doesn't do, and I can tell you a lot of things that being on a team doesn't do that scouting does. Scouting does it all. Everything from team to leadership, doing your best, working hard, getting out there. Scouting has it all, and I don't think parents really appreciate all that scouting can do for their child. It may be too much trouble to go to a meeting once a week or having to go out on these camping. They just don't understand the value. And the bad thing about it is we have a lot of our parents that never were scouts themselves. And we also have a little problem here we've had with, COVID and stuff, and a lot of our units fell apart. But in the single parent family, it's hard for a parent to work in scouting along, and they want to be on this team and that team, and they'll tell the kid, okay, what do you want? You want to play soccer, or do you want to do scouting? You can do both. You really can. You can work it in. We never kick somebody off the unit or that because they would miss something because they're doing something else. You tell the scout master or whatever that, hey, we'll miss some meetings and stuff, and they can get caught up. A lot of the work they can do, at home, but they just need to show up when they can and to take part of it. And even if they don't become an Eagle Scout, they will still learn an awful lot and carrying that oath and law with them as they go into adulthood. That is, I think, so important. I've often said that being a scout leader is second only to being like a Sunday school teacher like that. I feel that strongly about scouting and what it can mean to a youth. It is such a great program, and there's so many adults, family members, parents that miss out by not being part of it too, and really enjoying it because who doesn't like to see their child get out there and perform or be awarded a rank or a merit badge or activities badge and stuff. You have the opportunity to put a smile on your face and see your child be recognized. It's just a wonderful opportunity.
Well, I had a few years ago, I had some people in my family were saying, well, they're taking girls in. And I thought, well, the problem is you had families out there who the boy was in scouts and the little sister wanted to tag along. and the father, he wants to spend time with his children, and so it just has worked out. I think it's been a big benefit to scouting, to turn into Scouting America. I was used to the co-ed scouting of Europe years ago. It's been that way forever. Not not in the same troop and in the but where they're together and it's all one big movement. And so I think that's just been it's been a real benefit, especially to the girls that wanted to have all the opportunities that scouting offers. And
well, what we have now is family scouting. Listen,
yes.
Scouting America is really family scouting. Having really women involved. It's interesting. In 1930 is when they had the experimental Cub packs, and as a matter of fact, in Griffin we had one of the first ones at the First Methodist Church, but all I can say is, and James E. West was he didn't really want really Cub Scouting that much, and that's why they made it experimental, and he was so about having women in it. But let's face it, the basis of Cub Scouting is that then leader, and that's a woman, and all I can say is thank goodness for it. But you're right. How many times do we have a mother who has a son and a younger daughter who's sitting there, doing everything that the brother was doing? Yeah, go through it there. All the, the activities, and also there's no reason to exclude. There was a saying that I heard at the year before at the National Scouting Meeting, and I love the history. I love dressing up like James E. West and taking that on that I've done at some scouting type things. And so at first I was really upset about these changes that we were doing. But he said one thing that meant a lot to me: don't be so much a preserver of the past that you can't be a steward for the future. Because scouting has evolved. The program has evolved. The scout oath and law has not changed. It has not changed, but the program has changed. The way, Walter, you and I camped, I never forget, I was going through Scoutmaster fundamentals, when we had to get out there and a tent. So I got out there and, man, I started trenching around my tent. And all of a sudden somebody came, hey, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm trenching around the tent in case it rains, be prepared and stuff like that. No. We leave no trace. So that has evolved. The way we do things, Bob. I mean, tents now, you could almost take them out of the pack and throw them down and they just pop up. Man, in the old days, we had to put down a ground cloth and all these things. That has evolved. The program has changed, but the fundamentals have stayed the same. Same law, same oath. And people have to remember that, but they get so upset over these other things. It's just like, I don't like the way they're doing things. Well, that unit is chartered to a church or to some other organization. They have the say-so of who can be a leader, who can come in. They have that. They still belong. You can still design your unit as you want to. It's just that scouting says, hey, it's available, to all. This is the important thing to remember, that it's not, and it's not national. They're just saying these are things that you can do. They're no longer prohibited, but it's still that unit that has the say-so on how they want to do it.
Well, that's one of the things that we talked about Kennedy, and one of the things that I'm concerned with is this modern era of lawsuits. And so that's something, maybe it's not a cheerful topic, but we can talk about that at some other podcast when I have maybe somebody from National who can talk about those kind of unscrupulous attacks on scouts essentially by lawyers who want to enrich themselves. And so we'll talk about that, but that's one of the many issues that we'll all be dealing with in the next few years. what would you say? Let's bear in mind that we're trying to have our conversations here have an international flavor. That is to say, we would like for people all around the world to to see what we're doing, and we see what they're doing, and we see how scouting is prospering in their countries, or maybe some of the questions that they have uh, about what they can do, and so I'm hoping that we will. I know that we're going to have some talk about world jamborees and national jamborees and these big kind of like jamborees they have in Europe and around the world. And so, do you have anything that reflects on cheerfulness that you would like to just say to people all around the world and scout leaders all around the world? I mean, I like what you've already said about don't take yourself too seriously. And, you know, Baden Powell had that opportunity to, they had something called Boys Brigades. And he just thought it was just that the scouting movement was not militaristic. And it was not designed to be a feeder for the army. And so it had to be fun. But
That's right. Well, a scout is friendly. Scout's a friend to all and a brother to every other scout.
Oh, I'm glad you said that. Yes.
And so that's what it goes as far as, I would say international type scouting. This whole militaristic type thing, that's always bothered me, although things are set up, in fours. I don't know how many people realize that, but the maximum number of people that one person can be responsible for or know what's going on is really four, possibly three. So just like in the military, you have four squads to a platoon, and four platoons to a company, and four companies, to a brigade. And so the organization, and that's the way a company is too. And I don't know how many people really realize that, but you'll have a president, and usually there'll only be maybe four senior vice presidents, and below that they will have four and four and four. That all goes back to actually ancient Roman times. They pretty well had figured out how the structures could be, and so the structure is like that. And I guess that's why they have the whole thought about the military. But it's interesting too that if you're an Eagle Scout, you go in the military, you get an extra stripe because they know you already know about discipline and organization and how to work. This and that's that carryover from what somebody can learn from being in Scouts. And you learn that you've got a patrol leader and assistant patrol leader. That's not natural organization that you have in that, because you have somebody, a backup, successorship, if you will. If somebody is not there, who's going to stand in? The values and the structure and what you learn, it's just so big and vital and important that people don't, or parents, and maybe we've done a poor job about selling about what Scout has to offer. And maybe we only just throw out about, hey, camping trips and stuff like that. Well, we have that, and we have fun when we do it, and cheerfully we do it. But also subconsciously, you're learning a lot about the structure and how to do things, and that the important elements. I mean, suppose you're out and something happens. How are you going to, food, water, shelter, how to do some basic first aid if you happen to hurt yourself or you're with somebody that is, how to take care of yourself. That's what we do. And the interest that you have, the merit badges, my gosh, you hear about all the time about people who got into something because they did a particular merit badge. You learn all kind of interest and stuff like that. But once you become a first class scout, that term about, well, he's first class, that means he knows how to do things, how to take care of himself, and that he is can be a leader. And then from there, you learn all the little interest type stuff. Plus now that you have to also do service projects and give back to community, which I think some people forget that being involved is part of the price of citizenship in a community, that you take part where you live. Um, I don't know. I'm just rambling on. That's just me talking.
Well,
I get fired up, and I probably talk too much.
well, we want everybody to be fired up, don't we? And so that's what we're doing. And so I think that we'll probably just call a close to our little meeting tonight. And can we see you, Elliot? Can we see you with us before we sign off? Where's Elliot? Elliot sometimes shows up. There he is. Elliot, do you have anything that just that you have to offer as a younger man?
Some of my most fun memories was working at summer camp staff at Gerald I. Lawhorn Scouting Base, and being one of the song leaders. I played the role of program commissioner for one of my summers there, and Fred the Moose and Little Red Wagon were some of my favorite songs to lead. So
that's great. Well, with that, why don't we call it an evening? And hey, world, what else do we need to remind people? Number one, you'll on the outro on this, you'll see the website, and you'll see some other links to things that we've already created in the past. And then you can also, by going to the website that's under walkerchandler.com, you can see all the other podcasts we've done. And so you can look at them and just pick and choose. I highly recommend that you look at the one on first aid, wilderness first aid. We're going to follow up with doing some more of those types. That's probably the number one skill that Cubs and Scouts and explorers and rovers and leaders need to practice and know. Would you agree, Bill?
I agree. And let me just kind of say this too. If there are people listening, maybe some old scouters and all, their kids have gone out, have eagled out or whatever, why don't you go back and get involved? I know we could use what we call unit commissioners. I call them coaches that can go out there, and a lot of these troops and units and packs could really use some good, experienced people to help out, and it'll give you a chance to have fun. And and sometimes when we're younger people, I think it makes you younger too. You get a little younger at heart. So I would encourage anybody that was particularly a scout, or anybody if you want to get involved, get back involved, have fun, and just do your best. That's all you can do. You say, well, I don't have the skills. If you'll go out there and you'll do your best, and there are ways to learn how to do it, you'll have a great time.
Thank you, Bill. And thank you so much for joining us this evening.
My pleasure. Thank you.
On this. All right. Good night, everybody.